While I was 16 on a mission trip over spring break, we had a relaxation day and I went rock climbing. And while rock climbing, I ended up hitting my head right on the rock. And this was like real rock out in the.
Now, this was when you were 16, right?
Yeah.
So this was
It
how
was
long ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So you hit your head, like you fell down?
Um, a little bit. It's hard to say. I don't remember a whole lot
Okay.
of how far I fell. I know I blacked out for a few seconds, um, but then
It happened. She was jumping from one part of the rock to the next. And from what we've gathered, there was some miscommunication, and she ended up hitting the right side of her head in the jump.
yeah.
Wow.
And so the belayer pulled me down, and I got some ice and kept going with the week.
So you didn't so you kept going with your trip?
Yeah, I was constantly taking pain relievers to try and help. I could tell something was a little off. I wasn't normal, I guess you could say. But like the next day, my team was building a house, and I moved a total of 3,000 pounds or something like that of rock underneath the house to help with Habitat for Humanity. And so then did a ropes course and stuff like that without
And what were you
fully.
feeling? What were you feeling?
I was really disoriented, and I could tell I was a little bit more moody, and I was in a I was in a lot of pain. But I don't know. I just kept going.
And did it was somebody in charge? Did they not notice?
Um, Not really. They didn't help me. Um,
And we're still trying to piece everything together. From what we can gather, people didn't realize the severity of her injury. And we're not totally sure like what happened on that end. She was there for 2 more days, and then once we got her home, we picked her up and took her to dinner that night. And both my husband and I just instantly knew something was wrong. It was more than just being tired, And so the next day we had started with all the doctors.
So Debbie on our chat wants to know: do you still have symptoms of the concussion?
yes, I struggle with on and off depression. I have anxiety, and I now have a learning disability.
And your pain.
And yeah, I'm dealing with pain constantly.
Okay.
I haven't had a day of pain, or pain-free, since the accident.
And you
But
still
with-
go ahead.
I would say she's much better today than she was a year
Yeah,
ago.
a lot better.
So okay, so you let's go back a little bit. So you were not wearing a helmet?
I was.
You were.
If I hadn't have been wearing a helmet, I would have died within 4 to 6 hours.
The ER doctor that we got her in after we got her home said the helmet saved her life, that without it, she would have been dead within the first 4 to 6 hours. It's the same injury, for anybody who's familiar with Liam Neeson's wife. She
Yes.
was skiing. It's the exact same injury.
And she died.
And she died.
Somebody on our chat wants to know what is the learning disability that you're experiencing now?
I don't know the title, but I have severe problems processing things and analyzing. I used to be easy, straight A student in school, and now I have to try extremely hard to maintain a B. Memorizing is a lot more difficult. Doing complicated math is really hard now. And when I had the injury, I was in honors pre-calculus as a sophomore. And ended up having to drop the class, retake it, and then almost couldn't finish it.
Yeah, she's on a part-time school schedule right now. She has not been able to return to school full-time since the accident. She was actually put on home hospital care her junior year in high school because she just couldn't attend a normal school setting.
And you have such a beautiful smile. Your soul was not hurt, though. You have a really big soul. Somebody on our chat says she has pressure in her brain and wonders if you have any of that. Like it feels to her, like it's like she's having a blood pressure taken from her arm. Do you feel that?
In the beginning, I did a little bit. I also had a spinal leak. In the very beginning, we think it's completely healed now. So the first part of the process, I think I did. Mm-hmm. But that's gone now.
Mm-hmm. Debbie says, Dear Britini, please have great hope. And then she said, and you can regain your faculties. Debbie is a homeopath. And quite a marvelous one at that. And she knows. Yeah, have you ever been to a homeopath?
Yes.
You have?
I was going to one 3 times a week.
So you do go to somebody?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, Debbie, you hear that? She's going to a homeopath. And what is the homeopath doing for you?
I get a lot of physical therapy with him. A lot of adjustments, cranial sacral work. He helped realign things, and he was helping me break down all the scar tissue in the sutures of my skull. Because when I hit, my sutures got misaligned and formed scar tissue, so he had to basically adjust my skull back into place.
He also did a lot of emotional work around the accident as well.
So, and you're talking about a homeopath, not a chiropractor.
He does both.
He does both. Yeah. Very, very interesting. And is he giving you any remedies? Anything to take?
He has. Mm-hmm. I was on a strict supplement regimen for quite a while, and I also do daily neck exercises and things that I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Jesse on our chat says, Britini, you're very lucky. My son suffered a TBI and was completely disabled.
Wow.
So it's so important for you, because you've experienced that and are working your way back, to be able to be such a support for people. Because you kind of need people to have seen both sides.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To be able to help educate people, to be able to be the one, to be a spokesperson, a spokesperson. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So there's a lot of, and Debbie has some things that she's written on the chat, that she has a resource page on her Homeopathy World community page. You might want to take a look at, Stephanie. She has some resources. She's a homeopath. And she has some really great suggestions that you might want to take a look at.
Okay.
Can she?
I'll connect the two of you. How about that? Okay. After the show, I'll send you an introduction to the both of you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I think it might be worth taking a look at.
Definitely.
Somebody, Deb on the chat is saying that somebody wants her to see a naturopath. So I don't know about that, but we can send some information out. If anybody's listening to this and you are wanting some information, I'm going to post Debbie's information on the Breaking Free page on Facebook also. Or if you want to connect with me personally, just write me to Marilyn at reenchant, REENCHANT, planetearth.com. And I will be happy to pass along information to you as well, so that, we want to be able to be supportive as much as possible. So, boy, Britini, we've been talking about a lot of things, haven't we?
Yeah.
So early on, so you had this terrible accident, you come home, and then you start to go through the process of realizing that you've had this traumatic brain injury. It must have been awful for you. It must have been like one big shock.
It was really hard in the beginning, but I was determined to go on with life. I was still going to church. I was still going to school. I wanted to maintain as much of a normal life as possible. I didn't want to dwell in the pain and like sit in my room and just sleep, because I wasn't that person. I was always really outgoing.
So the person, so the person is one thing. The brain is something different, would you say? And you allowed your person to stay the same person.
Yeah, that was my goal.
Mm-hmm. That's honestly, that's a very interesting concept if you think about it, because so often we become the injury, or we become the pain, or we become the surgery, or whatever. But you're, from what I can tell, and your saving grace is that you allowed your person to stay the person always was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, and that's what I was trying to do, because I knew that if I dwelled on the fact that I was at a level 10 pain out of 10, that I wasn't going to leave my room. I wasn't going to maintain my friendships and my relationships with people, and I wasn't going to let that happen.
So Debbie says that a head injury can change a person's personality.
Yes, it changed mine. I struggled with depression and I was more moody, and I'm definitely not the same person I was before. My mom can explain that better than I can. But on the outside, I tried to be who I used to be.
But so is that causing you more frustration, or is it making it better?
It was causing both to a certain extent. Some days I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm going to be normal. Then other days it was very frustrating. I've tried now to just be who I am, which has become a lot easier. And I'm becoming more the person I used to be as time goes on.
So the more you surrender in some regards to, is it acceptance that you then are still, then you're more relaxed?
Yeah. I was fighting it for a long time, and I've learned to accept that this is who I am now, and that's okay.
So what is it you're not fighting now?
Trying to put on a mask to everyone else, saying, oh, I'm perfectly fine, and on the inside saying, like, feeling I'm not, like, why did this happen? Mm-hmm. I was very frustrated. Mm-hmm. And
so
now I'm...
So it's easier now?
Yeah.
So has the pain gotten less?
Yes, I was going from a 9 or 10 level migraine, out of 1 being the least painful and 10 being the most. I was constantly at like a 9. So a lot of times I was at a 10. Now I'm at a level 2.
Wow.
So that's good.
And do you think that a lot of that had to do with the acceptance?
Mm-hmm. And I've been going to therapy once a week, which has helped a lot.
One of the things, too, that we found is she was on so many drugs, because although we have a great homeopath, we also, had a team of medical doctors as well, and a lot of specialists that were involved, because she's been in and out of the hospital. She's been in ICU. She's had all sorts of outpatient procedures. I mean, there's been an enormous amount of medical care that's gone into this over the last couple of years. So one of the things that had happened was there were so many drugs, because initially we were trying to control the pain levels so that we could assess what else was going on. And so they would try one drug, it wouldn't work, so they'd pump it up to a next and then try another one. And I mean, all the way up to wearing an opiate patch just to try to dull the pain enough so that she could function. And one of the things we found is that those drugs, completely, I shouldn't say completely, but definitely altered her personality and who she was. So last December, she went through a 8-day detox program we did it all naturally. We didn't do a traditional detox with drugs. We did it all naturally through a cleanse process, and that tremendously changed her life. Once she was able to get all those drugs out of her system, we started to see that spark come back in her eye, the energy pick up. She used to tremble all the time. I mean, she couldn't hold a glass of water without shaking. And so once we got all the drugs out of her system, the trembling stopped. A lot of the panic attacks stopped, and things just seemed to settle down quite a bit.
You know, I several years ago I had an acute glaucoma. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
Yeah.
The doctor that I had gone to when it happened said that it's probably one of the worst pains you could ever have. I mean, I can't even remember the pain. It was so terrible. I mean, worse than anything And so I remember lying on the floor and, somebody just said that you just want to cut your head off. I mean, you do. You seriously want to cut your head off. The pain, I thought my head was going to explode. And my eyes were exploding. And they were, basically. So I understand I didn't have it for an indefinite period of time, but I know that pain is extraordinary. What were you going to say, Brittany? Were you going to say something?
No, I wasn't.
No? How is the relationship, somebody else's, I think it was Chris asked this, how's the relationship been between the two of you? Has it changed since all of this occurred, or?
Well, I'll chime in first, and then Britt can share. We've always been really, really close. We've been blessed with a really good relationship, and I don't know that that changed as much as there was definite strain because, as a parent, you've really got to push and, push her to do what she needed to do because she was going to physical therapy and our homeopathic doctor 3 days a week. Then we had neurologists involved. Then there's psychotherapy. Then there's issues at school. So there's meetings at school. Coordinating all the doctors. We had a specialist at a hospital up in LA who we were working with. We had our GP. And so there was just a tremendous amount of things to coordinate. I mean, it was constant on my end. And so I would have to push her sometimes when she would want to retreat, and understandably so. She doesn't want to take any more pills. She doesn't want to do any more exercises. She doesn't want to go to any more doctors. And that's totally understandable. But from my end, I'd have to push her because we were trying to find out exactly what was going on. We had to keep doing tests to figure out, like the spinal leak, for example, we didn't find out until a year later that it was there. It took a year. And by that time, she had no more spinal fluid in her spine. It had all leaked out. So her brain was actually resting on the top of her spine, which was causing, obviously, a tremendous amount of pain. But we had to push to get to that point. So I think there was probably some tension and frustration from that side because I'm sure there were times Britini just wanted a mom and not a medical caregiver, a medical coordinator, and frustration on my part because I knew, I was putting in, and I wouldn't do it any other way, don't get me wrong, but, 20, 30 hours a week trying to coordinate all of this. And so frustration with, come on, Britini, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep doing this. You've got to go to the doctor. You've got to do these stretches. You've got to take these pills so we can figure it out. So I think there was some tension there.
Yeah, a little bit, a lot of it. But it's definitely, now that I'm starting to recover a lot more, it's definitely better and getting back to where it used to be. So that's nice. And partially because I'm also becoming who I used to be and being as happy as I was before and in a lot less pain because it's really hard to always 100% of the time pretend that I'm happy.
Britini, for anybody who, I know that there's some people on the chat that somebody has had an injury, and then there's some people on the chat who have family that have had it. What would you, Britini, tell somebody that has it?
I would say to, one, not give up, and to keep striving to get better, because once you give up, the injury won. in a sense. The injury becomes who you are instead of you staying who you are. And so that was a big thing for me, is I was determined to be me. And that, I think that's what made the difference in me trying to, or it made the difference in me becoming well a lot sooner. Because if I dwelled in the injury, I wasn't going to want to try and get better. I was going to give up. I would have not wanted all the help I was getting.
So I know that I've been reading, and some Deb has like sound sensitivity and light sensitivity. What do you suggest for that? She sleeps with earplugs, and what do you think?
For that, when I was very light sensitive, I kept my room very dark, and for sound, like I'm a very music oriented person, and I had to almost cut that out for a while. Other than that, like I wasn't taking medication for that or anything. I would lay in my room in the dark with an ice pack.
Okay, I have to correct myself. What she's saying is she does that. She keeps out the sound to give her brain a chance to repair itself, is what Deb's saying. Okay, I got that. Okay, thank you. I apologize. Okay. Stephanie, what about you? What would you say to, I know that there's a woman on our chat who is, taking care of her son. And he's 20 years old, but is like, I think she said 3 since his birth. What would you say as a caretaker, as a mom?
I'd say bless you. It's really hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. Any parent who has seen their child laying in a hospital bed and you can't do anything, it's crushing. And, I used to lay with Britini in the hospital bed, and tell her, I wish I could change places with you. I would do it in a heartbeat. A couple of the things, I kept having to say, and Britini and I have talked about this a lot, God has a plan. We don't understand it, and didn't understand why the accident happened, but God will use it. God has a plan. And she's already seen some amazing relationships built out of it and lives changed because of it. One of the things for me that was hard is, and during all of this, we had relocated from North Carolina back out to California. And so I really we both did. We left our support group. Most of our support was in North Carolina. So in a lot of ways, I felt very alone out here as far as friendships. I mean, my husband was great, and Dad was good in supporting us through all of this, and definitely involved. And, so we weren't alone in that sense. But, a lot of the day-to-day stuff of somebody coming to help clean the house, we just didn't have that kind of support. So if somebody can ask for that support or offer that support to somebody who's a caregiver, that's huge.
I think we have a phone call, right? No, we don't. Okay, go ahead. So that's huge.
That is support. Huge. And then you've got to take time as a caregiver to take care of yourself. And I know that, in the throes of it, it doesn't seem like that's possible. And I sacrificed that for a long time and really paid the price for it because my health suffered a little bit. But that's crucial. You, as a caregiver, you've got to have time for yourself. You've got to have time to recuperate. Otherwise, you have nothing to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I asked Jessie on our chat if her son is home with her. And she said, yes, I would never have it any other way.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't change anything over the last few years. I mean, obviously there was a lot of sacrifices I made and a lot of things I gave up to take care of Britini, and to make sure that I was available to coordinate, everything that needed to be done. Because, we ran into issues with the school district and, different doctors and whatnot. But I wouldn't change that. I just can't even fathom not having done that. That there wasn't even a question. You do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. So did you do some things you thought you'd never do?
She's afraid of feet, and so she helps.
This is true.
Oh, now we're hearing all the secrets. Guess she's afraid of feet, and
She was helping me like put socks on in the hospital. That was one thing.
Yeah, it's not so much I'm afraid. I just don't like feet.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
Well, we all have something. And so, I